Watch a human mind completely shatter on camera during this highly classified, leaked federal questioning of Nancy Guthrie's daughter's husband. These hidden tapes were supposedly locked away forever within a government vault, yet they somehow leaked out, showcasing over 6 grueling hours trapped inside a bleak, concrete box. Watching this recording completely shatters every single assumption society had previously made regarding this terrifying mystery. The tape starts at 5:30 in the morning, revealing a smug suspect wearing sleepwear, totally certain he can outsmart veteran federal investigators. Initially, his acting seems Oscar-worthy, projecting pure devastation while playing the ultimate part of a grieving relative perfectly. For almost 90 minutes, his incredible acting makes you second-guess his guilt, until a sudden, dark transformation occurs. The illusion shatters when the primary detective silently grabs a computer to play a secret audio file captured exactly at 2:47 in the morning. His charade shatters within 4 seconds, as the chilling audio playing is undeniably his own voice. He was casually revealing secrets about Nancy Guthrie's abduction that 0 strangers would ever be aware of. Only the true mastermind possessed such knowledge. Though incredibly, that tape remains far from the worst evidence presented today. The video begins with a chillingly sterile vibe, as Nancy Guthrie's daughter's husband enters a barren holding space precisely at 5:30. He is dressed in sleepwear, unchanged since a tactical squad obliterated his entrance a mere 60 minutes prior. Sporting messy hair and puffy eyes, his theatrical performance kicks off immediately, projecting fake bewilderment, horror, and calculated victimhood. Squinting against the blinding overhead bulbs, he acts completely oblivious regarding the reason for his sudden captivity. Facing him are 2 officials, spearheaded by Special Agent Russell Dante, a 23-year veteran in federal violent offenses who is famous for one brutal tactic: crushing criminals who mistakenly believe they possess a vastly superior intellect. At this moment, he merely observes, anticipating the collapse, while a junior colleague sits mutely nearby for almost the whole 6-hour ordeal, endlessly scribbling notes. That ink flows endlessly, documenting every single uttered syllable. They recorded each spasm and tiny facial shift from the husband, leading up to a massive turning point. The veteran investigator recites the suspect's legal rights, which are immediately shrugged off. Lacking any pause, demand for counsel, or delay, he outright rejects protection, treating the legal formalities like a bothersome, trivial nuisance. Taking less than 3 seconds, he finalizes a terrible choice that ruins his future forever, displaying an eerie calmness. It borders on extreme hubris, genuinely trusting his ability to manipulate government detectives and escape custody by midday. His opening routine is pristine, feigning complete ignorance and dismissing the arrest as absolute lunacy. He swears he would never harm his wife's mother, insisting he adores her like his blood relatives. Pitching his body forward with palms glued to the desk, he maintains intense gazes, delivering heavily rehearsed phrases and calculated gestures. You can tell he extensively planned for this exact interview. Missing only one crucial detail, Russell Dante. Next arrives the chronological breakdown, his most memorized segment, where his explanation of the evening she vanished spills out with terrifyingly mechanical accuracy. He alleges she visited their home to eat dinner alongside Annie. They supposedly enjoyed her preferred card match from childhood, portraying the elderly woman as exceptionally joyful, laid back, and beaming with positive energy. Approaching 9:45 at night, he supposedly volunteered a ride back due to the late hour, memorizing every single minute, escorting her toward the entryway and standing by until the deadbolt securely fastened, then departing with total peace of mind regarding her safety. He actively stuffs his fabricated alibi full of highly believable by greeter, vivid elements. Her specific clothing, the exact menu, and even her cheerful chuckles while recalling memories of her deceased spouse over sweet pastries. Such precision is vital, because if his narrative holds weight, her last hours of freedom concluded surrounded by deep affection and security, giggling among relatives, right beside the very individual currently facing the detective, which makes this entire scenario profoundly disturbing to witness. He maintains this flawless composure for 90 entire minutes, displaying 0 stumbles, no lingering panic, and absolutely no shaking. He simply delivers perfectly measured responses like a convinced victor. He actually leans closer midway to politely ask the detectives about how their current search is progressing, embodying the persona of a worried loved one desperate to assist, instead of the evil mastermind who likely engineered the whole tragedy. Meanwhile, the lead interrogator permits this charade, silently letting him repeat the fabricated tale endlessly. With every repetition sounding increasingly polished, the detective is completely done hunting for basic truths at this specific juncture. He is constructing a trap. He purposefully encourages the criminal to establish an unshakable narrative destined to inevitably crumble under scrutiny. Since his peaceful storytelling is merely a prelude to total destruction, once 90 full minutes pass, the entire atmosphere drastically darkens. Reclining in his chair, looking remarkably relaxed, the relative delivers his third reiteration of that fateful evening with profound, unwavering self-assurance. Suddenly, the veteran gives a hidden nod, prompting his previously mute partner to wordlessly slam a portable computer and listening gear onto the desk. The dynamic violently shatters, as Dante's warm demeanor absolutely vaporizes. He shifts into a calculated, freezing demeanor, leaning in to meet the suspect's gaze before delivering a chilling command. "I need you to hear this closely." Initially, the man appears merely inquisitive, flashing a slight, cocky smirk as though he is expecting an utterly insignificant revelation. Yet that facade crumbles in a heartbeat, surviving only until the audio equipment finally powers up. Suddenly, the tight space echoes with his own distinct vocals, captured from a disposable cell dialing his private device. Logged precisely at 2:47 in the morning, the damning recording triggers an absolute, total meltdown of his alibi. It plays a terrifyingly detached dialogue, featuring the abductor detailing Nancy's rapidly deteriorating physical state. They discuss the collapsing extortion scheme, frantically debating their immediate next moves amid the total chaos. And the captured audio is undeniably clear. There is no mistaken identity. He speaks effortlessly about operational details, mentioning specific captivity facts exclusively known by the mastermind. The physical aftermath is simply impossible to overlook. The security video immortalizes an abrupt, terribly visceral shift that borders on nauseating, as his entire complexion morphs into a ghostly, ashen hue right before their eyes. His fingers that had rested calmly for over 60 minutes suddenly start trembling with such ferocious intensity that the distant lens captures every single tremor. He instinctively recoils backward. All arrogance sheds away as his frame visibly collapses, desperately attempting to melt away into the upholstery. Frantic pupils dart between the two detectives, hunting for an impossible escape route before the playback ceases, plunging the room into dead quiet. 3 seconds, then 5. Then 7 of crushing, breathless tension drag on while the investigator stays mute, letting the monumental dread marinate. Finally, a soft question pierces the void. "That is you speaking." Correct. The ensuing rebuttal is instantly fragile and utterly unconvincing. "I do not recognize that tone," he stammers, fracturing on the final syllable with undeniable, pathetic vulnerability as he desperately feigns ignorance. Each syllable further betrays him, cementing the mutual realization of his absolute guilt, while the watchful lens records his total ruin. The detective restarts the playback, intentionally pausing the tape at highly specific, crucial intervals. He highlights sentences that definitively prove his collaboration with the abductor, using calculated interruptions to systematically dismantle his innocent facade. The physical breakdown is glaringly obvious as he gasps in quick, ragged breaths, resembling a man fighting off sheer terror. All poise evaporates, superseded entirely by a primal urge to flee, characterized by shifting pupils, nervous gulps, and a frantically spinning brain. He swiftly pivots, tossing out a brand new excuse about a misinterpreted conversation, totally unrelated corporate chatter. He claims it was a private family dispute regarding his relative Marcus, desperately grasping at literally any alternative straws. While the officer lets him foolishly hope, his junior partner catches a microscopic clenching of the lead detective's jaw, recognizing the quiet cue before nodding at the manila file. After all, the audio file was merely the opening act, prompting the backup cop to drop a massive paperwork pile down. That heavy slam feels oppressive, exposing printed digital correspondence. It contained every single text sent between him and Marcus, covering several weeks prior to the abduction, right until the fateful evening. The interrogator starts reciting the transcripts with agonizing slowness, pushing the sheets across the desk so the harsh ink confronts the suspect. Thursday evening is ideal. Her schedule never varies. You have to shut off the porch surveillance beforehand. The rear entrance is vulnerable. I can map it out. Main entry is bolted. She swallows sedatives near 10 at night. Wait 60 minutes. Sentence by sentence. The grim reality is laid bare, eliminating any remaining avenues for retreat or deception. With each recited text, his fake innocence completely shatters, his features broadcasting the horrific, dawning epiphany that detectives successfully unearthed every single keystroke of his twisted plot. It was archived perfectly and weaponized against him right here beneath the unforgiving glare of the interrogation room bulbs. Absolutely nothing is left to imagination, as these messages remain terrifyingly methodical and exact. The chats detail her daily habits, her property's blueprint, and the precise time frame when she lacked any viable defenses. It included her exact pharmacy regimens, meaning the joyous mother who happily shared a trusting meal with him just hours prior was reduced to a mere logistical target. Finishing the final damning sentence, Dante just deliberately pauses. An incredibly oppressive quiet floods back in, prompting the junior officer to drop his pen. Now he merely stares, his visage caught perfectly on tape, radiating pure astonishment instead of rage or revulsion, almost as if, despite his veteran status, comprehending such incredibly callous betrayal directed at a trusting relative remains completely beyond his psychological grasp. Things turn significantly darker as the man attempts one final angle, a severely hacked cellular device. He insists an unknown enemy fabricated the texts to set him up. Sounding genuinely frantic for the very first time, boom, Agent Dante doesn't even flinch, because he's holding the ultimate trump card. Network towers pinpointed that exact mobile device precisely where the suspect stood whenever a text went through. From his office to his house, even the dining spots where charge slips proved he ate. In an instant, his last viable alibi goes up in smoke. Time codes locked him in. Each outgoing text perfectly shadows his routine schedule. A remote cyber attack couldn't possibly mimic that physical trail unless the hacker carried the device everywhere. Yet, he shoots another desperate shot. He insists Marcus faked the whole ordeal, suggesting the texts were somehow spoofed. That pathetic theory crumbles in seconds. Those identical logs live on the accomplice's mobile, the network's databases, his personal handset, and digital archives. Cyber experts proved every single byte was absolutely genuine. 4 distinct origins matched flawlessly, unfolding undeniably right before his eyes. Defeated by logic, his posture crumbles into the seat. That arrogant attitude he arrived with has completely evaporated. Now, we just see a broken guy witnessing his world shatter completely, totally powerless to hit the brakes. Yet, the true nightmare was still coming. As the computer forensics turned those bogus alibis and fake calls, his texts, and his deception into a mere warm-up act. Everything drastically shifts right here. Just 3 days prior to his capture, he used a professional wiping tool to delete his browsing footprints. He fully assumed it was destroyed. Big mistake. The Federal Cyber Squad resurrected the entire log, pulling every hidden query and supposedly vanished footprint back into plain view. The detective starts reciting the recovered file with chilling detachment, causing the vibe in the interrogation suite to turn ice cold. For the initial time in 4 solid hours, the rookie detective stops jotting notes. He just glares at the desk. The log reads like a playbook for grabbing a victim without dropping a clue. Best ways to secure untraceable crypto ransoms. Maximum survival windows for an elder deprived of their vital prescriptions. Plus, tactics for dumping human remains in desolate areas. Then comes the detail that flips the case. A query logged exactly 72 hours prior to the kidnapping. Do co-conspirators get reduced prison time when hostages perish in custody? This exceeded a mere snatch and grab. It was a fully orchestrated death sentence waiting to happen. Across 21 days, those random dark thoughts mutated into highly calculated, tactical execution phases. Shutting down porch lenses, hacking into residential alarm networks, hunting down hired guns looking for quick cash, perfectly synced with the mother's daily schedule. pharmacy needs, and property layout. Trapped. The suspect throws out one last pathetic excuse. He claims he was drafting a murder mystery. The agent crushes that alibi instantly. 0 outlines, 0 chapters, 0 rough edits, and absolutely no creative documents stored anywhere on his hard drive. Suddenly, he decides to lawyer up. Though the ship has totally sailed, 3 solid hours of bogus claims, mismatched timelines, and collapsing excuses were already forever captured on video. His self-destruction is absolute, completely unfixable. Yet incredibly, the nightmare continues. The upcoming bombshell hidden inside his bank statements doesn't merely expose his operational tactics. It completely unmasks the greedy motivation driving him. 3 hours into the grilling, the narrative pivots from digital clues to pure intention. The squad paints a terrifying portrait of a guy drowning in crippling debt. He basically brainwashed himself into believing murder was his sole lifeline. 3 devastating pillars lock down his motivation entirely. Number 1, absolute economic ruin. His finances were a wasteland. Checking accounts bleeding red ink. Plastic totally maxed with a trail of ignored penalty notices. A defaulted mortgage facing bank foreclosure in under 60 days. Adding it up, he owed well over $250,000 against a meager paycheck that couldn't even cover the grocery bills. Point 2. The vanishing funds. In the 3 weeks before Nancy's abduction, he withdrew $30,000 in raw cash. Pressed about the cash, his stories flip-flopped wildly. Corporate overhead, then renovation costs, then absolutely nothing. Ultimately, he swore his memory failed him. $30,000 evaporated into thin air. Finally, the ultimate catalyst transforming mere panic into homicidal intent. Nancy's testament. Her massive multi-million-dollar legacy was slated for an even split between her 2 girls. If she passed under those conditions, his wife would inherit roughly $2 million, becoming joint marital wealth that could immediately crush his deficits, quiet the debt collectors, and magically erase his bankruptcy fears. A strict deadline loomed, though the matriarch booked a meeting with her lawyer to heavily revise the paperwork, threatening to slash their incoming windfall. That legal meeting was merely days away, and the suspect knew it. Detectives proved he was eavesdropping when she discussed those exact revisions over a family dinner. That very night she was chuckling, sharing fond memories of her deceased spouse, blissfully blind to the deadly gears turning in the shadows. That night, she completely trusted a monster, climbing into his car for the fatal ride. A $2 million fortune was vanishing, and the clock was rapidly ticking down. By hour 4.5, his whole demeanor drastically changes. The suspect on the tape entirely loses his cool. His shoulders cave inward. Trembling fingers replace the arrogant swagger he initially brought into the interrogation suite. Nothing remains but sheer fatigue and the chilling dawn of truth that his alibi failed. The lead detective spots this vulnerability immediately, pivoting his approach. The aggressive heat vanishes. Replacing the harsh interrogation is a surprisingly deadly weapon. He offers gentle, calculated understanding. The investigator lowers his tone, pitching a narrative where the suspect isn't a monster. Perhaps things just tragically escalated out of nowhere. Perhaps the goal was merely to frighten the old woman, forcing a rewritten testament. Maybe the hired muscle was supposed to let her go quickly, or maybe the whole scheme simply derailed overnight. The detective closes the gap, whispering intimately to strike a nerve. The helpless victim remains unfound. She is an 84-year-old lady. Her vital prescriptions are missing. Her hypertension tablets were left behind. She keeps snapshots of her grandbabies tucked in her purse. Right now, she is terrified and agonizing in isolation. Only he holds the key to ending her endless torment. Right here, right now. That trigger breaks him. After endless hours of stoicism, the family member begins to weep. His stubborn facade fractures entirely. A glimmer of genuine truth finally bleeds out. The confession seems minor on the surface, yet it flips the case. He knew the killer was broke. He handed over roughly $20,000 to the guy. With those words, he torches his defense. Moments before, he claimed ignorance regarding the vanished funds. Suddenly, he confesses to handing those exact stacks to the very thug who abducted his mother-in-law. Their deadly partnership is confirmed verbally, recorded on tape, and absolutely irrefutable. Trapped with no way out, the suspect confesses to having dark conversations. He claims it was strictly hypothetical, swearing he never ordered a hit. The investigator doesn't debate him, referencing 2:47 in the morning. The timeline ruins his defense. A truly stunned man wouldn't strategize logistics, map out the next moves, or ask about a captive's fate. Right then and there, the game permanently ends. The camera records his defeat. It dawned on him that a prison cell was his only destination. Every deception was logged by detectives. Any attempt to pivot was crushed by damning proof. Across the precinct, the hired gun is spilling everything, painting the gruesome masterpiece. 6 solid hours. Half a shift was all the cops needed to utterly demolish an arrogant suspect. Yet the darkest detail isn't the concrete proof. It is the chilling void of basic empathy. He never once asked about the elderly captive. His selfish tears were strictly shed for his own impending prison sentence. The 84-year-old grandmother loved him, cherished family pictures, and shared a joyful meal with him hours prior. In his cold eyes, she merely represented a financial fix. The sickening details the accomplice spilled regarding the initial 48 hours horrified, hardened detectives. One deeply unsettling mystery loomed over the entire squad room. Was the fragile senior actually breathing when... This story reveals a painful truth about human nature. Sometimes the greatest danger does not come from strangers, but from those we trust the most. Betrayal cuts deeper than violence, because it destroys not only safety, but also faith in relationships. At its core, this case teaches us how unchecked greed can slowly corrupt a person's mind. What begins as financial pressure or desperation can grow into rationalization, then into planning, and finally into irreversible actions. When someone starts seeing people as opportunities instead of human beings, the line between right and wrong disappears. It also reminds us of the importance of integrity, intelligence, planning, and confidence mean nothing without morality. The suspect believed he could outsmart everyone, but truth has a way of surfacing through evidence, through time. and through human weakness. Most importantly, this is a lesson about empathy. A life is never a problem to be solved or a means to an end. Behind every victim is a family, memories, and love that cannot be replaced. In the end, this story urges us to protect not only our safety but also our values. Because once empathy is lost, everything else can follow.